Hello, friends. Welcome to English Emperor Lab 2.0. Today, we will learn English by listening to a beautiful story. The story is called Patrick and the Tiny Helper. So, let's begin. Patrick O'Malley was a 12-year-old boy who lived in a quiet little town. He was smart, active, and full of energy. But there was one thing he disliked more than anything else: homework. Whenever his teachers gave assignments, Patrick would groan. "Ugh, homework is such a waste of time," he often complained. Instead of sitting at his study desk, Patrick preferred playing outside. He loved basketball, where he would practice dribbling and shooting hoops for hours. On weekends, he played hockey with his friends in the neighborhood park. And when he was at home, his favorite hobby was playing video games late into the evening. His teachers were not very happy with him. "Patrick, if you don't do your homework," warned Mrs. Jenkins, his English teacher, "you won't learn anything properly." Mr. Anderson, his math teacher, also scolded him. "Numbers are important, Patrick. Without practice, you will always be confused with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division." Patrick only shrugged. Deep inside, he sometimes felt guilty because when the teacher asked questions in class, he often didn't know the answers. Still, he told himself, "I'll manage somehow. Homework is just too boring." At home, Patrick's parents also reminded him. His mother would say, "Patrick, you must be more responsible. You're growing up, and education is the key to your future." His father added, "Discipline will help you in life, son. You can't run away from your duties forever." But Patrick would nod half-heartedly and run off to play. One sunny afternoon, Patrick was in his backyard when he noticed his pet cat chasing something. The cat leapt into the bushes, its paws batting furiously. Curious, Patrick rushed over. At first, he thought it was a toy doll tangled in the grass. But when he picked it up, he was shocked. It wasn't a doll at all. It was a tiny little man, no more than 6 inches tall, dressed in an old-fashioned outfit. He wore a tall black hat that looked like it belonged to a magician or a wizard from ancient times. His coat was green with golden buttons, and his shoes curled at the tips like those of elves in fairy tales. The tiny man squeaked in a high-pitched voice, "Please, save me from the cat! Don't let it eat me!" Patrick blinked in disbelief. "You can talk? Who are you?" "I am not a doll!" cried the little man angrily. "I am from a magical world. If you spare me, I will grant you one wish. Just one. But please, keep me away from that beastly cat." Patrick's mind began racing. A wish? This was unbelievable. Most kids dreamed of such things, but here it was happening in real life. Without thinking much, Patrick scooped the little man into his hands and placed him safely inside a shoebox. "All right, you're safe now. No cat can touch you here." The little man adjusted his hat and looked at Patrick with relief. "Thank you, boy. You have saved my life. Now tell me, your wish." Patrick thought long and hard. He could have wished for endless video games, a mountain of candy, or even superpowers. But suddenly, an idea struck him. He remembered his teacher's constant warnings. He remembered how his parents worried about his studies, and he remembered how boring homework felt to him. "If this little man can do all my homework, I'll be free. I can play all day and still get good grades. Perfect." So Patrick looked at the little man and declared, "Here is my wish. You must do all my homework, every single assignment, until the end of the semester. That's 35 days. If you do it well, maybe I'll live and get straight A's." The little man's face turned pale. He stomped his little feet and groaned, "Oh no! Oh no! That's not fair. I don't know much about your human subjects. I'm not trained in mathematics or history or English grammar. This is going to be so hard." But he had promised, and magical beings never break their word. "All right," he sighed. "I will do it, but you must help me when I get stuck." Patrick laughed. "Fine, fine. As long as you're the one doing the work, I don't care." That evening, Patrick gave the little man his English homework. "Here, write this essay for me." The little man held the pencil awkwardly. It was huge compared to his tiny hands. He struggled to write even a single word. "This tool is too big for me. And what does this word mean? Show me the dictionary." Patrick frowned. He thought this was supposed to be easy. But he had no choice. He fetched the dictionary and read the meanings aloud. The little man carefully copied the sentences, but it took hours. The next day, it was math homework. The little man threw up his hands. "What are times cables? And these symbols, plus, minus, divide, I don't understand them." Patrick groaned. "You don't know math? Then how will you solve the problems?" "You must sit with me and explain. I will do the writing, but you must guide me," demanded the little man. So Patrick sat beside him, explaining step by step. Slowly, the little man solved the equations, but only because Patrick was helping. When history homework came, the little man was even more confused. "Who is George Washington? What is the American Revolution? I don't know any of this. Read the textbooks aloud to me, boy." And so, Patrick had to go to the library, borrow books, and read them while the little man took notes. Day after day, it was the same story. The little man worked, but only with Patrick's help. Patrick had thought life would become easier with the tiny helper. Instead, it became harder than ever. Every evening, Patrick stayed up late answering the little man's endless questions. "Spell this word for me. Explain this fraction. Read this paragraph louder. Teach me how to divide decimals." Patrick grew tired. His eyes burned with sleep, and sometimes he yawned in class. His friends noticed. "Patrick, what's wrong with you these days? You look so tired these days." Patrick only muttered, "Homework, too much homework." At home, his parents were surprised. "Patrick, you're working so hard suddenly. We've never seen you this dedicated." Patrick didn't tell them the truth. He thought it was better to keep the little man a secret. The little man, meanwhile, was determined to finish his promise, but he was demanding, stubborn, and always shouting for help. Patrick couldn't escape. As days passed, something unexpected happened. Patrick, who once hated homework, slowly started learning. By teaching the little man, Patrick himself was practicing. When he read the dictionary, he learned new words. When he explained math problems, he understood multiplication and fractions better. When he read history aloud, he remembered the important events. Without realizing it, Patrick was becoming a hard-working, responsible student. Even his behavior changed. Since he spent less time playing video games and more time studying, he became calmer and more polite. He even started helping his parents with chores, something he had never done before. His teachers were amazed. "Patrick, you have improved so much," said Mrs. Jenkins proudly. Finally, the 35 days were over. The semester ended, and the little man's promise was complete. One morning, Patrick woke up to find the little man gone. The shoebox was empty, his tall hat was missing, and the window was slightly open. He had quietly slipped away back to his magical world. Patrick felt a little sad. Despite all the hard work, the little man had become a part of his life. But he also felt proud. He had completed all his homework. When report cards came, Patrick's grades were excellent. He had A's in almost every subject. His classmates were surprised. His teachers praised him, and his parents were overjoyed. "Patrick, we're so proud of you," his mother said, hugging him. "You've changed into a responsible young man," added his father. Patrick smiled. He thought it was the little man's magic that had helped him, but in truth, it was his own hard work all along. The story of Patrick and the tiny helper spread through the school. Everyone wondered how he had transformed so quickly. Patrick only smiled and kept the secret to himself. But deep in his heart, he had learned an important lesson. There are no shortcuts to success. Magic might give you a push, but in the end, you must do the work yourself. Hard work, discipline, and persistence always bring rewards. From that day forward, Patrick never hated homework again. It was no longer a boring chore, but a path to learning and growth. And though he never saw the tiny man again, he often thought about him with gratitude. Conclusion. And so, dear listener, this was the story of Patrick and the tiny helper. Patrick thought a magical little man was doing his homework. But in reality, Patrick himself worked harder than ever, and that's what changed his life. The moral of the story is simple. Hard work is the real magic. Thank you for listening to English Emperor Lab 2.0. Today you listened to the story of the Patrick and the Tiny Helper. I hope you enjoyed it and also learned some English. See you in the